from Sandoval, Big Bear, the SOB, coming to you here from Sandoval Acres, the Be Smart Beekeeping Project, Beehooligans podcast. I had to say it all out like that. So, like you heard the last podcast, we had Mr. Jim Grit out here, and that was kind of fun. We were talking about some of the activities we were going to do with the bees and the beekeeping and stuff like that. And yes, we're live on the farm again, so you're hearing ducks and chickens and tractors and stuff like that. We're live out here. We're just not caring about noise. We're just here. This new ambiance. Call it ambiance. Anyway, and it's not a pop singer, by the way. I've got somebody here, but she's not ambiance. Oh my goodness, no. Can we call you ambiance?
No.
This is Amy Patrice. She's one of our Beehooligans, if you will recall. She's our garden specialist. She's our plant person. And it's Amy Ambiance Patrice.
Oh my goodness.
I'm never letting that go. Lucky I'm not going to ask you to sing.
I'll walk away.
Oh. So what we're doing this episode here is we're talking about plant stuff, obviously, because we got the plant person here. She knows stuff, because if it grows, the only thing I'm good at doing is eating it. And really sad what I'll eat when it comes to growing plants. So, hey, look, there's Miss Joy. She runs the joint. Say hi.
Hi.
There's Joy. You're on the podcast now. We got you.
We're building fence today.
Yay.
You're building a fence?
Mm-hmm.
Which fence?
The front of the property, and it'll all be nice.
Oh, the front up there. Oh, awesome. See, she's doing things. She's making things happen. I'm just sitting here talking to y'all. So, I'm the lazy here. I'm the lazy one. Anyway, because I'm making Amy work, I'm going to pick her brain here in a minute. So, and Miss Joy, she runs the Scattered Joy Acres here, where we're setting up our teaching apiary. So she's always got something going on, because it's really like a farm. She's got, I don't know how many animals. She's got camels and stuff, man. It's awesome. So anyway, and now we're going to have bees. So anyway, we want to make this an educational project like we talked about last week. And it's not just about the bees, though. And it's not just about rescuing bees, although that's a big part of it, obviously. But we want to teach people. We want to teach beekeepers. We want to teach beekeepers what kind of things they can plant that'll help to keep their bees alive, especially in the early spring and the late fall, that are going to be good for their plants, because the bees can't fly that far because it's cold. Mm-hmm. So they have limited flight ability. They want to plant stuff in their yard that's close to the bees that's going to be good for them. But we also want to teach other people, because a lot of people want to help all the time. And if you're beekeepers out there, I know you hear it too. People ask you, "Oh, I don't want to be a beekeeper, but what can I do to help bees?" Well, they can plant stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, they can take care of the flowers and plant things for bees. And so that's what Amy's going to do here. We're going to make a project where we're going to plant stuff and make it look all pretty and nice, and it'll be attractive and educational and stuff down in a part of the property down here, where they do take people have horse trail rides and stuff, and as they're horse trailing around, they can see all the plants. And people that are walking around, they can stop and look at the plants. We got little placards we're going to make. This tells you what the plant is, when to plant it, when it blooms, all that kind. Now, you said a name. You said a big name, a big word for that, a gardener word. What was the name for the plant name and when they bloom? And
phenology.
Phenology.
Yes.
Now, that's not to be confused with phrenology, where they read the lines on your head. There's phenology and phrenology, and I'm not reading any lines on anybody's head. Right?
No.
That doesn't require hands on heads.
No.
Okay. So,
phenology.
Come on.
Okay.
Phenology.
So that is pretty much the timing of flower essence and the sequence bloom. Pretty much when you should plant things, when the flower or plant is actually in bloom, and how long it's going to be in bloom, and how that works with the insects and the animals. And so with climate change, that really affects a lot of that, because a lot of things are confused right now, especially with Omaha. The weather, 1 week it's 60 degrees, and next week is 20.
Well, okay, and here's a good question, because you bring Omaha about it, and don't talk to me about climate change. The climate has been changing since 80 million years ago.
Yes.
Constant change. So I'm not buying the whole man-made crap. I will agree climate changes, but that's part of the process of just nature.
Yeah.
Nature, it does that. But anyways, so we can agree climate does change, and it is, things are happening. But you talk about Omaha specifically, and because we're based here in Omaha, I'm going to talk about Omaha. The rest of you in the world can't help you. Sorry. But we might give you some ideas based on our conversation about Omaha. Now, Omaha's weird because we have a lot of bodies of water, and so typically around Omaha we have a higher humidity level than other areas that might be just 10 miles away, 15, 20 miles away. Does that humidity, because we're right by the big Missouri River, we got a lot of big lakes around here, does all of that extra humidity in the air really affect our environment that much for plant growth that it's going to be significantly impacted on what we're growing?
It can. It just depends on where you're at. You know, there's gardens that I work at, like in East Omaha, closer to the river, that the soil's better. The plants, to me, seem healthier because they get more moisture. Whereas if you go out to West Omaha, where there's a lot of new developments, a lot of land that has been pretty much ripped up and just put new, to me the plants are not as healthy. And then you have people who overwater to compensate for the original soil that's been removed, the soil that's been replaced. It's not the best. So it's not so much.
We've got the Elkhorn out there. We've got the Papio Creek. We've got, I mean, do those not have a natural impact or just not close enough?
I don't think close enough.
Okay.
I think a lot of people that live closer into the North Omaha, East Omaha, they're really closer to the river.
The Big Mo,
yeah, they're right there. Whereas the other developments, it's kind of been more designed not to be. Right. You can see it, but you're not right there.
Okay, well that makes sense. So now what we're doing here, though, we're in the Florence part of Omaha, which is north of North Omaha. So we are really like we're on 30th Street, but technically the river is closer
right
than
there.
You think.
Because remember when it flooded a couple years ago? I mean, you couldn't. Dodge Park was closed.
Yeah,
and I liked it.
So you're like, hey, plants,
I liked it. The plants liked it.
So, but in this location here now, you see there's a little kind of a runoff creek, and we also have a little semi sort of pond. It fills up with excess moisture and then dries out because it's not like naturally
It's like
retentive.
A natural rain.
Yeah, it's just a basin.
Pretty much, which is nice to have.
Now, is that going to play havoc with or is that going to help?
Actually, to me, it feels like it should help.
Should help?
Yeah, because as long as there's access for the plants to get any kind of moisture, roots can go deep.
Right. So now we've got these 8-foot circles of plants, and we're talking about wildflowers. And you listed what was you got a can of wildflower mix. And this is like just a whole bunch of seeds in one big thing.
Yes.
And can you read the list? What's all in there?
Okay.
There's like a bunch of them.
Forget-me-nots.
What?
Forget-me-nots.
What? All right.
Single Chinese, aster, cornflower, poppy, stock, daisy, mint, bluebell, alyssum, coreopsis.
What now? Is there anything unique about that listing of specific plants?
They're all annual pollinator mix, so not just for bees, but for pretty much any pollinator.
Okay, has that been selected for anywhere? Is that just? Are these like Nebraska-specific plants? Or?
This is what's being sold in Nebraska. I've seen this at different nurseries. One at Indian Creek Nursery. I've seen it at other nurseries around the city.
And that can comes from Indian Creek. They sell that particular canister, Renee's Garden.
And then she has it online.
Okay. So, I mean, it's something that's commonly gotten pretty much just about anywhere then.
Yeah.
You can get these mixes of plants that are good for pollinators. So we're going to fill one of our big 8-foot circles up with just this big mix. And then we're going to have another circle that's going to have like a specific plant, like a crop plant. Like I know we're going to do one we talked about doing
clover.
Like a red clover, sweet clover, because that's a typical garden thing or a farm crop that's good for bees.
Alfalfa.
We're going to do an alfalfa one, and all the other that aren't specific are just going to be the wildflower ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things I know, because like I said, I talked about making them circular or hexagonal or something, but kind of a circular-ish shape. Is because a couple of reasons. One is that it kind of forces people not to walk in a straight line. As they walk around, they slow down, they can look and see what's going on. We're going to have the little placards, like I said before, and we're going to have the list what's going on what's growing, what the name of it is, what your phenology stuff. All that information is going to be there. So as beekeepers come through, they can come and look, and it's actively going to help them. It's like going to be a living dictionary of plants they can look at. They can see what the plant looks like. They can even look at the pollen. So as we go back to the apiary, we could see the bees bringing in pollen. We might be able to show them, look, this is pollen from this plant.
Exactly.
You can see the direct correlation there through pollen. And so that's going to be really cool. And it's going to be nice. It's going to be decorative. We're talking about maybe throwing a big stretch out on the backside of that little pondish thing and just make the whole thing like red clover maybe to fill that up. Because not only will it help, if we put a big patch of clover out there, it's good for the bees.
Yeah.
It fills up some space and makes it attractive. And because she's got all these rescued horses, she's got, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10 or more horses out here. The clover can be used as a hay crop to help with the horses. So, I mean, it's really, we're going to be helping, everybody wins in this one. And if I'm right, clover, when it breaks down, what's left after it's been harvested and all that, that adds certain nutrients back to the soil.
You can work it back into the soil. So it builds up the nutrients in the soil.
What is it, nitrogen, I think?
Yes.
Is it a good nitrogen source? See? So, seriously, everybody wins. I love that we're able to create this kind of environment, this situation here, just by helping bees and beekeepers. And the people, the other gardeners that are going to come around here, because we talked about the folks that want to be gardeners and they don't want to be beekeepers, they can come down and then, what do I do to help bees? Well, hey, take a look around. You can plant a lot of this kind of stuff, you know. Or if they just want to know, I've never seen one of these. I've heard about it. You heard you guys got them. Bang. You know, we can do some of that stuff right here. So it's going to be a really neat project. I know a few of our Beehooligans that are, coming in and they're helping. They've already, I know you got at least one recruit, and I think somebody else mentioned they were interested.
Yeah.
So that's going to be pretty cool. You're going to have some help in getting all that going on. But beyond what we just talked about, you know, helping be good for bees and the whole animals and all that, you've got an interest in. Is it because of this phenology, or is there some other tie-in? Because I know you've got a real big interest in pollinators as a gardener, and I know, of course, obviously pollination. But where, as a gardener, do you see where's your big attachment or connection to the bee project we're doing here? Where's that really going to work in? How is that going to work in for you? Where do you win on that situation?
Well, I get to donate a lot of plants because when I work with different clients, sometimes they have extra plants that they normally would just toss. Or I need to divide them because the plants overgrow and they need to be split. And so being able to come down here and actually give more, pretty much food for the bees. Save plants, so it's a plant rescue as well as an animal rescue and a bee rescue.
Animals, plants, bees, we're rescuing everything. Oh my gosh.
So that's the biggest, I love it. Just for that.
Well, yeah, and I guess a lot of people don't think about that kind of thing, is that they can do splits on plants. So instead of just digging, that plant's a mess, let's just dig it up and kill it.
Or most people, they go and buy, every year, at least most gardeners probably may spend anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand a year on plants that really, if you buy 1 or 2, you can split every other year 4 or 5 times.
So obviously you're talking about bringing plants like that up here. Mm-hmm. They're going to need to be maintained.
Yes.
So are you going to be looking for more people that may not necessarily be beekeepers, but maybe want to be part of our little project in general because they can help learn how to do some of that and maintain our little special garden place there?
Exactly. The major thing is probably going to be, making sure the new transplants get watered. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Our water source is going to be important.
Yeah.
We've got the water around here, but because it's kind of a big open area, we've got some water movement issues we're going to have to look at. But, just kind of somebody to keep an eye on. You having enough eyes, pairs of eyes, I guess, and hands to get in and do that. That's, beekeepers are beekeepers because they want to play with bees. So they're not always going to be your first in line to volunteer to take care of the plants.
Exactly.
Although, it's not a bad idea.
And then deadheading.
I'm sorry?
Deadheading.
Deadheading. All right. See, garden stuff. All right, break this. What's deadheading? I know what deadheading is a truck driver is, but I don't think it's the same thing.
No, I don't think so. Okay, so plant blooms, you have the flower petals, it looks pretty, and then it starts to die. Uh-huh. So most plants, when they produce a bloom, they're producing it because eventually they are going to want to produce seeds so they can keep on growing and just keep continuing going on.
Right.
When you deadhead, you pretty much are stopping the plant from producing seeds, which tells the plant, okay, I need to produce another bloom.
Oh.
So with
You're messing with the plant's head. You're
yes.
tricking and conniving the plant.
Yes, but it helps the bees because the more blooms you have, the more nectar.
More pollen, more nectar.
So with anybody who wants to help bees, if you have plants, you want to stay on top of deadheading because that will force more blooms. So
well, okay, so I'm guessing more blooms makes it a more attractive plant.
Yes.
More flowers, pretty flowers, obviously. Okay. More food for bees.
Yeah.
Is there a downside to it?
It can be time consuming depending on what kind of plant you get. If you get something like catmint, that's like big, snipping and all that, that takes a lot. With me, I take some shears and just go at it. Wait till all of them are pretty much dead and just, you can get a couple of blooms out most perennials.
So when you're talking about deadheading, you're not talking about like active flower heads that are on there already. You're talking about flower heads that have died.
They're pretty much dying. Yeah.
Okay. So
you wait until they like most plants. I wait until almost the last bit of life, and then I deadhead it. I snap it off.
And that gives the plant kind of a cue
signal,
to say, hey, we need to replace this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there a point? Is there a point where it's like too late?
Not really. It becomes
too late. You just got this poor dead little flower head on there, and it's like, yeah, you know what? You missed your chance a week ago. Now I'm not making anything.
No, like most plants will keep on going until their season is done.
Yeah.
And so with last year, because our fall pretty much stayed warm until like November, there was a couple of plants that were reblooming that normally would not do that. Like bee balm, I was able to get at least 3 rounds of good blooms, when normally it'd be 2, because it stayed warm the whole time and I stayed on top of it.
Okay.
So
that's going to keep people busy then. So we're going to, if you're in the Omaha metro area and you don't want to be a beekeeper, but you want to help bees by gardening and all that, come hang out and work with Amy. Amy is going to be loving to have people come and help cut the heads off of flowers. Okay, maybe I'm. But she's got her work cut out for her. So if you're not even into being a beekeeper, but want to help bees and get into gardening and learn how to do some of these things like splits and deadheading and all that kind of stuff and help the project here, we'd love to have you come down and help.
Also, if you have plants that need to be split, if you have extra plants that have not been sprayed with anything, because that's important. That's important. And make sure, like, if you're using seeds or any plants they haven't been treated with any neonicotinoids, because that defeats the purpose. And
that also includes buying the plants. People buy them already with nicotinoids.
Yeah, and they don't know.
So you got to watch out for that, because we want to be careful. Because the thing about neonicotinoids, and you'll hear this in just any beekeeping or even gardening thing, is that the neonicotinoid is systemic. It's become so the nectar, the water that's in the plant, the pollen, everything contains this pesticide in it. So it's not just like, it coats, it dries off, and it's safe. No, it's part of the plant. It's built in now.
So if you can do your research before you start buying plants to make sure, if you can trace it back to where it actually came from, that would help.
Yeah. So again, local in a way is kind of better, because if not necessarily because it's higher quality or better than another plant from somewhere else, but just the fact of where it came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially with local nurseries here, because the plants are used to this climate, as opposed to a lot of plants are coming from, if you go to big box stores, they're coming from greenhouses in Florida or in Texas. They're not used to this climate of the freeze thaw.
Okay, now wait, let's see that. That's pretty cool, because bees have to acclimate too. So we'll get bees. People will buy packages and nukes and a whole hive's worth of bees, and they'll come from Georgia and California and Florida, places that are warmer in the spring.
Yeah.
In here in Nebraska and in other northern states, middle states, we buy our bees from a lot of times from those southern and whatever climates, and we have to focus and keep an eye on are bees adapting correctly and in a way that, you know, that's going to be successful for them? And you're telling me the plants
same thing with
adapt
plants.
also.
Because the one thing I realized when I started working at Indian Creek Nursery, there'd be a lot of plants that would not be in bloom the same time the plants in my own yard would not be in bloom. But then I'd go to a bigger box store and they'd have plants that should be blooming in June already blooming in April to get them to sell. And then I'm realizing, studying, doing research, they're coming from like these greenhouses that are like mass producing them. You know, it's a lot of it is for show. A lot of it is, you know, it attracts the customers. It looks pretty. Let me get that. Then they go buy it, put it in the ground. We get another late frost in early May, late April. The plant's dead. And then you have these stores selling plants for like 99 cents because they're half dead because they weren't ready to be sold or put out yet. Right.
Okay. Well, I can get that. Yeah. So there we go. We got a really, you know, I didn't know that. So that's pretty cool. So here we got this big project we're kicking off. The Be Smart, the Beehooligans, in the teaching apiary up here at Scattered Joy Acres. We're picking up not just with rescuing bees, because like I said last time, you know, we're going to be going out and getting bees out of buildings and trees and houses and whatnot that they're going to exterminate them otherwise. So we've got that going on. And now you're talking about to bring more plants to help with bee nutrition, we're going to be rescuing plants.
Yeah.
That is just entirely too awesome. It's like this really weird thing going on. So plant rescue people to rescue bees, which all contributes to rescuing animals, because if we get the alfalfa and all that down, the alfalfa gets used to feed the rescued animals, and now they're getting proper nutrition, fresh, good, local quality nutrition. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited. I'm looking at, what is that? That is a donkey's rear end I'm looking at. I'm not going to say the word on the podcast, but that's literally what I am seeing. I turned my head and bang. Oh my gosh. I didn't need to, okay. Anyway, so that's kind of what we're going. So we're making our little circles, and we're going to start with just a couple. I know we wanted to start with at least one of the wildflower circles, and I know we're going to start with one of the, I can't help myself, a crop circle. We can say aliens planted it. But, you know, so we're going to have a crop circle, we're going to have a wildflower circle, and we're going to at least get one or two of those started. And then as we go along, we'll keep adding new circles, and we'll make it interesting. We'll make them lay them out in a way that allows for the horses to be able to, people ride their horses and go by, and people to get around and walk around, and not have to be, you know, a straight pattern where they're just buzzing by and missing everything. Yeah. But they can walk through and slow down and really inspect and see what's going on. So, and it's just going to be an ongoing thing. I mean, we don't look at, it's not like we're looking at a begin point and a stop point. It's just, we've got the space down here, and it's going to help where she's trying to get at. So we're just going to add little bits by little bits. So there's no rush. You know, I'm hoping you don't feel like, okay, I got to jump in here and do it. It's not like a big jump.
No.
You know, just a little bit like it, because you wouldn't be here otherwise, right? She'd be like, yeah, Tom, thanks for offering.
Gardens grow just like hives grow. Eventually, you may have to split a hive.
Oh yeah.
So it's the same thing with the garden. They're constantly growing.
So we just kind of go by what they need.
Yeah.
You're going to let the growth of the garden be determined as we get the materials available, but also as the plants determine what they need.
Yep, or what they like. They may not like certain areas, and they'll let you know.
I can tell already you're going to teach me a whole lot about gardening, and I don't, you know, I'm not a garden guy, so I'm actually, in a way, I'm like, oh God, more to learn. And on the other hand, I'm like, well, that sounds really cool. Yeah. Now I do know that plants are some of the most vicious competitors. I mean, they just are crazy on other plants.
They can be
for competition for resources.
Yes.
I mean, you know, what people call weeds is the problem is because they're stealing. In a lot of cases, they're fighting aggressively for nutrients and water that the crop plants, the plants we desire, are wanting also. And it's like they do better at it.
And the best, the notorious one is the dandelion. But I learned this year that my gardening practices are going to change. I'm not going to pull up as many dandelions.
Well,
because it's necessary.
It's the first good. You know, I tell people when it comes to bees, adult bees. Once you get into bees that are a certain age and older, they're into qualifying adults. they really pretty much exist on honey, nectar, that kind of thing. Okay, but the brood, the eggs, the larva obviously, the early pupa before it gets capped over, they need as much fresh pollen as possible because the pollen has lipids, fats, proteins, all that stuff that the developing grubs, the larvae, need to develop. If you don't have that in abundance and fresh, I mean, pollen, believe it or not, has a really fast degrading shelf life, so to speak. The older it gets, it just loses. I mean, it can go from, 95% potency, so to speak, to 14, 15% in like a matter of a week or two.
Wow.
Just if it's not packaged right.
Wow.
Retained right. So it'll lose all of those nutrients in a rapid amount of time. And the longer it sits, the less quality it is. So by having live plants producing fresh pollen, that those dandelions, those early bloomers, your dandelions, the ones that people don't want, dandelions, Dutch clovers, creeping Charlie. Yep. Bees love all of those because they are huge pollen producers for the brood. So when people say, in this neighborhood, they come to me, in this neighborhood, we used to have bees all the time, and now I don't see anymore. What are you doing? I said, how long have you been having the weed company come out here, and how long have you been cutting down your dandelions and stuff? Oh, well, this and that the past few years. Well, that's why. If you notice, there's a correlation. The more you cut down those type of plants, those weeds, and what you call weeds, that is the best brood food to build those new booming populations of bees. So basically, when you get rid of all those pollen sources, you're starving the bees to death, the colony itself.
Yeah.
And as much as people don't want to think about dandelions and clovers and creeping Charlie, they are the best and earliest pollen producers at the time of year when bees need the pollen the most in order to survive coming out of winter. And I get frustrated because I understand on one hand people put a lot of money and time and effort into keeping these immaculate lawns, and they're nice looking and attractive, and what they think of the dandelions, that is weeds and is unattractive, and and yes, they're aggressive competitors against the plants that they're planting on purpose. But on the other hand, those plants they're planting on purpose are not really contributing to that early development of our pollinators. And they want Tony, but I want the bees around as pollinators to pollinate my pretty plant. Well, guess what? In order to have the bees to pollinate your pretty plant, my bees need your dandelions to have enough bees to do that.
Exactly.
It's really kind of a cycle, kind of a thing there. I don't know. But
everything's made to look pretty. It can still look pretty, just...
Yeah. Hey, I love dandelions because, like dandelion wine, dandelion salad. You make salad out of dandelion.
It's okay.
You can use medicinal. There's a tincture that have been made using dandelions. Dandelions have a lot of value if you think about it.
Plant them in groups.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Let them grow in groups.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just like if you let a lot of these...
Here's the dandelion patch of my yard, and leave those and get rid of the rest.
Because they do look pretty when they're in mass.
Yeah. But, I get it, but at the same time it's frustrating because, like I said, in order to pollinate and have the numbers of bees to pollinate the pretty flowers that bloom later, we need to have those big pollen boom producers in the early spring so that there's enough bees to do that later. Yeah. Otherwise, we lose the bees, and then where's your pretty plants going to get pollinated? Because
this is the time of year people start asking about pre-emergent and all that other stuff, and that it's really hard for me not to want to do that. But now it's like, and I do like, even though it is annoying to see dandelion seeds blowing all over everywhere, the rabbits eat them.
Yeah,
you'll attract more rabbits. Maybe you don't want rabbits, but
rabbits do.
They will eat the dandelions before they eat your flowers if you have enough of them there.
So it's like bait and switch. It's like, hey, if you want to save your pretty flowers, let them keep the dandelions there. Two purposes in one. I love that. Man, time flies. We had a ball. I know I learned a whole bunch. You taught me bunches, and I didn't even think I could learn more. So, Amy, I hope we're going to get to hear from you in the next few episodes. You get some more time to come out and hang out with us.
Yes.
And be part of the podcast, so we'll get to hear you more. And folks, this is Big Bear, Tony Sandoval. with the Beehooligans, Be Smart, Beekeeping Project Podcast. And remember, be real.